Urban Therapy with Sun 752, and this your daily go-getterism number 620. With June 14th, 2016. Tonight, I want to talk to y'all about the streets. The streets always win. The streets are like a gambling casino. Like a casino. Because, the house always wins with the casino. Like, no matter how much money you come into the casino with, you don't have more money than the casino has. Because the casino has a lot of people losing money, making sure that it has enough to cover all of its debts. You go in, you can never have enough money to cover all of the thousands of people that go inside of a casino. So they always win. So they know that the longer you gamble, the longer you stay in the game, the longer you stay at tables, the longer you stay at the slot machines, your odds of winning decrease. And their odds of recouping back whatever you have won from them, they're going to get it back. That's just how the streets are. We all have loved ones that are out there. Maybe not a lot of them, but we all have somebody that we love, care about, or are concerned about, who is out there in those streets doing their thing right now. Whether they selling drugs, whether they are working the streets as far as prostitution is concerned, whether they are dealing with people who are pretty unscrupulous in their dealings and all of that. We know somebody that's doing something that they really ain't got no business doing, and they out there. That's that term, out there. You out there. And when you out there, people who love you try to bring you back home. I think we need to talk about that. They're out there. I might do a show about that tomorrow. Being out there, I like that. But anyway, whether you using drugs or whether you selling drugs, none of that shit leads to nothing except for jail and death. I just buried my nephew last week. Or should I say, we just buried my nephew last week. And although he didn't cause his own death, he was out there in the streets. And I have other people in my life that I love, and they out there in the streets, and it concerns me and it worries me. It's the kind of stuff that keeps you up all night. When you hear about something going on out there in the news, it actually keeps you from watching the news, because you become afraid that you're going to hear or see something. Just like when we watched the news and we saw my nephew involved in that murder. Well, he was the one who was murdered. It's a terrible feeling. It really is. But it got me to thinking. Like when you drive a car a lot, the likelihood that you're going to get into an accident increases more, because you're in a space where accidents happen. People are afraid to get on airplanes because they know if an airplane goes down, the likelihood of you surviving is low. But they don't realize that people die or get critically injured in car accidents thousands of times a day. Thousands of times every day. So if you're like a cab driver or a bus driver or something like that, the likelihood that you're going to get in some type of fender bender is kind of high, because you're out there a lot. That's the same way it is when you're on the street. Dealing with that crime element, hustling, scrambling, trying to make a way for yourself, trying to live that fast life. You're dealing with that criminal element out there. So the likelihood that you're gonna run into some type of violence increases. The likelihood that you're gonna have run-ins with the police increases. The likelihood that you're gonna have to deal with some type of legal confrontation, it increases. The likelihood that you may get fatally hurt, it increases. And the crazy thing about it is, most of the people that are out there in those streets never believe that anything is going to happen to them. They think that they're smart enough to beat the streets. Everybody who is out there in the streets think that they have found the perfect formula to how to beat the streets. So they think that the crew that they hang with, the people
that they have learned from, the OGs that have put them onto the scoop and all of that. Like they have learned some inside track in the game, and that's how they'll be able to survive and beat the streets against the odds that everybody else has fallen to. Some people do make it pretty far, but you never completely beat the streets if you stay in the streets. Many people have taken their street knowledge and parlayed it into legitimate businesses. That's a smart thing to do. But if you have 1 foot in legitimacy and 1 foot in crime in the streets, eventually the streets are going to win, because they always win. The streets always win. And that's why you got to be as careful as possible in your dealings and your frequency in the streets. Because the likelihood that you're going to win is like, it's like winning the Powerball. You only have to lose 1 time, but you only have to win. You're only going to win 1 time. Nobody hits the Powerball twice. You don't have to. That's a hell of a payoff. You don't see anybody winning the Powerball and still living the life that they was leading before they won the Powerball. But out here in these streets, you know, you hit a lick here, you hit a lick there, you do your thing. Do you lead them streets? No. You try to repeat it over and over and over, because you think that the streets are the goose that laid the golden egg. It's not, man. It's a bad look. So I want to say to all my street people out there, man, you out there selling drugs, you out there using drugs, you out there selling your body, you out there soliciting prostitution, you out there, you know, hustling in halfway, should I say, semi-legal ways. You got to be careful. You got to be more thoughtful, especially if you have children, because you're putting their lives at risk. Risk of not being there for them when they're going to need you growing up, because you're either incarcerated or you're not there physically because the street swallowed you up. So let's do a little better with that. Good things happen to those who wait. Great things happen to those who grind. And anything can happen to those who go for theirs. So go hard, go for yours. And the only thing I want to say more about this thing, if you are getting money out there in those streets, man, find yourself a legitimate business and get up out of the streets. I can't impress upon you more that the longer you're out there, the greater the likelihood that you're not going to make it. And people out there love you and they care about you and they don't want to see anything happen to you. So please, whoever you are, wherever you are, show a little respect and love to the ones who love and respect you. Get right. If you've made enough money to start a legitimate business of some kind, get the help that you need keeping that business afloat, and get up out of them streets, man. Believe me, they'll be there when you need them again. You don't have to live in the streets, straight up and down. Tomorrow night on the Urban Therapy with Sun show, we're going to talk about how people get with people because they really feeling them, and they try to put their past behind them. They try to put their past behind them, and that's not an easy thing. So we're going to ask questions like this. Would you date somebody who was incarcerated for murder or rape? Would you deal with somebody that was a habitual cheater? You know, straight infidelity, and maybe still struggle with that? Would you deal with somebody who was an alcoholic or still is, or a drug addict and still is, or still has a substance abuse problem or an alcohol problem? Would you do it? Have you done it? What if they were an abuser? Physical. You know, they have a history of anger management problems, and they still struggle with that. Would you give them a chance? Somebody who was a drug addict, crackhead, former dope fiend. Would that mean anything now if they cleaned their lives up? Somebody who has a lot of children by different mothers and fathers or whatever. Would you get with them? Would you have another child with them? So we're going to talk about that. We're going to get deep into that tomorrow night. It's going to be hot. We're going to ask a lot of questions. We're going to ask even more questions than that. You know what I mean? Because there are a lot of people out there who are sex offenders. Not just sex offenders as far as sexual assault, but what about sexual assault with minors? What if you have found a way to turn your life around, but you caught a charge for some type of sexual pedophilia type of sexual assault? You need to find somebody to love. Is there somebody out there that would accept it? We're going to get deep tomorrow night, man. It's going to be hot. Tomorrow night, June 15th, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Call in number 347-677-1533. Once again, the number to call is area code 347-677-1533. blogtalkradio.com/Sun752. I'll holler at y'all later. Y'all have a good night tonight. Stay out of the streets, man.